You'll die poor and alone, Elliot, just like you deserve. Those were Megan's final words before she slammed our apartment door. The sound echoed through the empty hallway in Columbus, Ohio. I stood frozen, clutching a cardboard box containing everything she deemed mine, a few faded shirts, worn textbooks, a single photograph of my mother. My name is Elliot. 32 years old. Recently divorced. According to my ex-wife, destined for nothing but inevitable misery, she took everything: the car we'd financed together, the furniture I'd carefully chosen, the savings account I'd built over 6 years. Her attorney was ruthless, mine was incompetent. I was too exhausted to fight anymore, so I signed that I surrendered the life we constructed because proving I deserved any of it required energy I no longer possessed. The worst part wasn't losing possessions or money. It was her final look, pure contempt, as if marrying me was a catastrophic mistake she desperately needed to erase. That I relocated to a cramped one-bedroom apartment on the city's east side. Thin walls. Broken heating. Barely habitable. That I accepted a position stocking shelves at a grocery store, overnight shift, $11 hourly. I was grateful. That first week, I worked 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. My back screamed from lifting endless boxes. My hands bled from breaking down pallets. But I kept appearing because I had nowhere else to go. Meanwhile, Megan had already moved in with Derek, her new boyfriend who sold commercial real estate and drove a black sedan worth more than my annual salary. She posted vacation photographs constantly: Cancun, Miami, some unpronounceable mountain resort that I didn't browse her social media because I wanted to. I browsed because I couldn't stop. Each post served as another reminder of how completely I'd fallen. One night during break, I sat alone in the stockroom eating a homemade sandwich. My coworker Travis, maybe 19, asked what I'd done before this. Software development, I answered quietly. Built some projects. Had ideas. Never quite succeeded. He nodded absently, returning to his phone. That I didn't mention the rest, that I'd once believed I would change the world, that I'd had a partner who shared that vision, that somewhere along the way, life had crushed everything. That I finished my sandwich in silence, then returned to work. That I met Megan when I was 24, she was beautiful, confident, and full of opinions about everything. I thought that meant intelligence. Turns out she was just loud. That we dated 2 years before marrying. I was working at a mid-sized tech company then, earning decent money, believing I had a future. But the company collapsed 1 year into our marriage, and I never quite recovered. That I bounced between freelance gigs and contract work. Some months were good. Most were not. Megan made it clear she expected more from me, more ambition, more success, more proof that I was worth her time. She never said it directly, but she didn't have to. The way she sighed when I came home, the way she stopped asking about my day, the way she started spending more time with her friends and less with me. That I tried. I really did. That I applied to dozens of jobs. I took courses online. I pitched ideas to investors who barely gave me 5 minutes. Nothing stuck, and the more I failed, the more Megan pulled away. By the time she filed for divorce, I wasn't even surprised. I was relieved. What hurt was the way she told everyone I was the problem, that I was lazy, that I had no drive, that she'd wasted her best years on a man who couldn't provide. Her friends believed her. Her family believed her. Even some of my own relatives seemed to take her side. That I stopped defending myself. What was the point? The night shifts became my refuge. I didn't have to explain anything to anyone. I just stocked shelves, broke down boxes, and waited for the sun to rise. My manager was a woman named Gloria, who never asked personal questions. She just handed me my schedule and let me work. I appreciated that more than she knew. One night around 1 a.m., I was restocking the cereal aisle when I caught my reflection in the glass door of the freezer section. I looked older than 32. Tired. Worn down that I thought about calling my mother, but she lived in a nursing home now and didn't always remember who I was. I thought about calling my brother, but we hadn't spoken in years. I thought about calling anyone that I just kept working. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I remembered a project I'd built in college, a program that was supposed to change everything. I wondered whatever happened to it, then I pushed the thought away and kept stacking boxes that it was a Tuesday night. Or maybe Wednesday morning, the hours blurred together on the overnight shift. I was in the back loading dock sorting through a delivery of canned goods when I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around expecting to see Travis or one of the other stalkers. Instead, I saw Julian. That he looked the same as he did 12 years ago, a little older, maybe grayer around the temples, but still the same guy who sat beside me in computer science class and stayed up all night coding in the campus library. I blinked. I thought I was dreaming. "Elliot," he said. "I've been looking for you for 3 weeks." I set down the box I was holding. "Julian, what are you doing here?" He smiled, but there was something serious behind it. "You remember that program we built senior year? The one we submitted to that innovation competition?" I remembered that we called it SyncWave, a data synchronization tool designed for small businesses. We thought it was going to make us rich. It didn't. That we graduated, went our separate ways, and I forgot all about it. "What about it?" I asked. Julian stepped closer. "A company called North Peak Engineering acquired it. They've been using a modified version of our original code for the last 8 years without telling us. When I found out, I hired a lawyer. We sued. And last month, they settled." I stared at him. "Settled for what?" He pulled out a folded piece of paper from his jacket and handed it to me. $71 million. "And according to the original agreement we signed back in college, you still own 35%. The numbers didn't register at first. I read the paper 3 times before the words started making sense. 35% of $71 million. That was just under $25 million. I leaned against the stack of boxes behind me. My legs felt weak. "This is real?" I asked. Julian nodded. "I've been trying to find you for weeks. You're not exactly easy to track down these days." I looked around the loading dock, the pallets of canned vegetables, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the faded name tag pinned to my shirt. "I've been here," I said quietly. "Just surviving." Julian put a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to survive anymore, Elliot. You won. We won." I didn't cry. I didn't shout. I just stood there holding that piece of paper, feeling something I hadn't felt in years, hope. For the first time since Megan walked out, I believed that maybe I wasn't destined to fail. Maybe I wasn't the man she said I was, maybe I never was. I folded the paper carefully and put it in my pocket. Then I looked at Julian and said the only thing I could think of. "Let's go somewhere and talk." Julian took me to a diner a few blocks from the grocery store. It was the kind of place that served breakfast all night and didn't ask questions. We sat in a booth near the back and he ordered us both coffee. I listened as he explained everything, how he discovered that North Peak Engineering had been using our code. How he tracked down the original files and proved ownership. How the lawsuit dragged on for 18 months before they finally caved. "They tried to bury it," Julian said. "Claimed we abandoned the intellectual property. But I had the original agreement, the one we both signed in the dorm room, dated and notarized. I remembered that night. We were so sure we were going to be millionaires. We signed the document like it was a formality. Then graduation came, life happened, and I forgot it ever existed. Why didn't you tell me sooner?" I asked. Julian shrugged. "I didn't know where you were. You dropped off the map after you got married, changed your number, deleted your social media. I spent months trying to find you. I nodded. Megan had convinced me to cut ties with most of my old friends. She said they were holding me back. I believed her. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. You're here now. That's what matters. We talked for hours. Julian told me about his life. He had a wife and 2 kids now. He ran a small consulting firm in Denver. He never stopped believing that Synthwave would amount to something. I kept the files, he said. Every version, every update. I knew someday it would matter. I thought about all the years I spent doubting myself. All the times Megan told me I was worthless. All the nights I spent stocking shelves and wondering what went wrong. Meanwhile, Julian believed. He fought. And now because of him, I was about to become a millionaire. I asked him what came next. We signed the settlement paperwork, he said. The money gets deposited into escrow. Your share gets transferred to whatever account you designate. Should take about 2 weeks. 2 weeks, after everything I had been through, 2 weeks felt like nothing. When I got home that morning, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of my bed and stared at the wall. That I thought about Megan, about Derek, about all the things she said about me. That I pulled out my phone and opened her social media page. The most recent post was from the day before, a photo of her and Derek at some upscale restaurant holding glasses of wine and smiling like they had the world figured out. The caption read, "Blessed to be living my best life with someone who actually has ambition." I read it 3 times, then I put my phone down and smiled. She had no idea what was coming. That I didn't call her. I didn't message her. I didn't tell anyone. That I just went to work the next night like nothing had changed. Gloria handed me my schedule. Travis asked me if I wanted to grab breakfast after the shift. That I said, sure. For the next 2 weeks, I lived like a man with nothing because I wanted the moment to be perfect. I wanted her to find out on her own. I wanted her to feel the weight of every word she ever said to me, and I was willing to wait. The settlement went through on a Friday afternoon. Julian called me from Denver to confirm. It's done, he said. Check your account. I was sitting in my apartment when I opened the banking app on my phone. The balance had changed. Where there used to be $412, there was now $24,850,000. That I stared at the screen for a long time. That I thought about calling someone, my mother, my brother, anyone. But I didn't. That I just sat there letting it sink in. The next morning, I walked into the grocery store and handed Gloria my resignation letter. She looked surprised. You okay? She asked. That I nodded. I'm more than okay. She didn't ask any more questions. She just shook my hand and wished me luck. That I walked out of that store for the last time and never looked back. The first thing I did was move out of my apartment. I rented a place on the north side of Columbus. It wasn't flashy, just a nice 2-bedroom with a view of the river. I didn't need much. I never did. That I bought a used truck, paid cash. I donated most of my old clothes and bought a few new things that actually fit. I started eating better, sleeping better, feeling like a person again. Julian flew out to visit me a week later. We sat on my balcony and watched the sun set over the water. You doing okay? He asked. That I nodded. Better than okay. He smiled. You deserve this, Elliot. You always did. I didn't know if that was true, but I was starting to believe it. Megan still didn't know that as far as she was concerned, I was still the loser she left behind. I saw her post another photo with Derek, some beach vacation with matching sunglasses and overpriced drinks. That I didn't feel angry anymore. That I just felt free. That I hired a financial advisor, a woman named Charlotte, who came highly recommended. She helped me set up investments, trusts, and a plan for the future. I wasn't going to blow this money on nonsense. I was going to build something real that I thought about what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't need to work, but I wanted to. I started sketching out ideas for a new software project, something that could help people, something that mattered. Julian offered to partner with me again. I said yes. That we started meeting over video calls twice a week, planning, brainstorming, building something new from the ground up. It felt like college again, except this time I knew what I was capable of. One night, I was walking through the grocery store where I used to work, not to shop, just to remember. I passed by the loading dock where Julian found me. I thought about how different my life was now that a kid in a store uniform walked by pushing a cart of boxes. He looked exhausted. He looked like I used to look. That I stopped him and handed him $100 bill. "Keep going," I said. "It gets better." He stared at me like I was crazy. Then he smiled. That I walked out into the night and didn't look back. The news broke 3 weeks after the settlement. A tech blog ran a story about the Synkwave acquisition and the lawsuit that followed. They mentioned Julian by name. They mentioned me. The headline read, "College Project Leads to $71 million Settlement for 2 Ohio Graduates." I didn't share the article. I didn't post about it. That I just waited. That it didn't take long. Megan's sister called her. Her mother saw it on the news. Her coworker forwarded her the link. By the end of the day, my phone was buzzing with messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Old friends, distant relatives, people who wanted to reconnect now that I was worth something. That I ignored most of them, but I didn't ignore the message from Megan. It came at 11 at night. A single text. Is this real? I didn't respond. She called. I let it go to voicemail. She called again and again. Finally, I picked up. "Elliot," she said. Her voice was shaky. "I just saw the news. Is it true? Did you really get $25 million? I paused, then I said, "Yes." Silence. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "Why would I?" She didn't have an answer for that. "I made a mistake," she said. "I was wrong about you. I was wrong about everything." I leaned back in my chair and looked out the window. The city light sparkled in the distance. I thought about all the nights I spent alone, stocking shelves, wondering if I would ever feel whole again. "You told me I would die poor and alone," I said. "You told everyone I was a failure." "I didn't mean it," she said. I was angry. "You meant every word," I said quietly. "And now you have to live with it." She started to cry. That I didn't feel sorry for her. "Elliot, please. Can we just talk?" "Maybe we can." "No," I said. "We can't." I hung up. The next few days, she tried everything: texts, emails, even a letter sent to my old address that got forwarded to me. She apologized. She begged. She blamed Derek for influencing her. That I didn't respond to any of it. That I heard through mutual contacts that Derek left her a month later. Apparently, he wasn't interested in a woman whose ex-husband was now richer than he would ever be. The irony wasn't lost on me. Megan moved back in with her mother. She lost her job after showing up drunk to work 3 times. Her social media went quiet. That I didn't gloat. I didn't celebrate. That I just kept building my new life. Julian and I launched our new company 6 months later. We called it Verilyn Global. It was everything Synkwave should have been. We hired a small team of developers. We rented office space in Columbus. We started making a difference. That I thought about Megan sometimes, not with anger, not with pity, just with the quiet understanding that some people only see your value when it's too late. She lost everything because she bet against me, and I gained everything because I never stopped believing I was worth more than she said. The last time I saw Megan was at a coffee shop near downtown Columbus. I didn't plan it. I was just picking up an order when I noticed her sitting alone by the window, she looked different, thinner, older. Her hair was shorter, and she wasn't wearing the designer clothes she used to love. She saw me before I could leave. "Elliot," she said. That I nodded but didn't sit down. She stared at me for a long moment. Her eyes were red, like she had been crying. "I heard about your company," she said. "It's doing well." "It is." She looked down at her hands. "I think about what I said to you every day. I was so wrong." I didn't respond. "I lost everything," she said quietly. "Derek, my job, my apartment. I'm living with my mom now." I thought about all the nights I spent alone wondering if I would ever climb out of the hole she helped dig. I thought about the words she threw at me like weapons. "I'm sorry that happened to you," I said, and I meant it, not because she deserved my sympathy, but because holding on to anger wasn't worth my time anymore. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. "Do you think you could ever forgive me?" I considered the question carefully, then I said, "I already have. But that doesn't mean I want you in my life." I picked up my coffee and walked out. She didn't follow. A year after the settlement, I stood on the balcony of my new home overlooking the river. Julian was inside with his wife and kids. We were celebrating the first anniversary of Verilyn Global. The company had grown faster than we expected. We had contracts with 3 major corporations and a waiting list of clients who wanted our help. I hired 12 employees, most of them young developers who reminded me of myself at that age. That I thought about the man I used to be, the one who stocked shelves at 2 in the morning and wondered if he would ever matter. That man was gone. Megan never recovered. The last I heard, she was working part-time at a retail store and struggling to pay off the debts Derek left behind. She stopped reaching out after our conversation at the coffee shop. That I hoped she found some kind of peace, but I knew it wasn't my responsibility to give it to her. Julian walked out onto the balcony and handed me a glass of iced tea. "You okay?" he asked. That I nodded. "More than okay." He smiled. "You know, I always believed in you, even when you didn't believe in yourself." I looked out at the water and thought about everything I had been through, the failures, the humiliation, the long nights alone. None of it broke me. That it just made me stronger. Megan bet against me and lost everything that I bet on myself and won. That was the only justice I ever needed. That I raised my glass to the sky and smiled. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well.